Hello, you're listening to episode 283 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman. On today's podcast, I am delighted to be joined by Susan Bonnar, who is the lady. Well, I mean, you've done so many things. You've done so many things, but we're here to talk about the British Craft House. But I want to talk about your whole journey because, yeah, you're a lady of many talents. So thank you very much for joining us. And can you tell us all about your good self?
Hi, and thank you so much for having me on. Gosh, tell you all about my whole self. That's a big that's a big ask. So my where I am now is obviously the British Craft House. But yeah, it's been quite a journey to get there. I don't have the traditional kind of university business. What should I make a business in, etc. A lot of my journey, I guess, has been slightly accidental, and kind of I'm a bit of a fixer. I think that's probably the best way to explain. I ever since I was a really small child, actually, if I saw a problem, I wanted to fix it. If there was a better way to do it, I would try and make it better. And I think that that's how my business have evolved, really. Not necessarily with a kind of business plan and idea or a gap in the market, just literally as I've been going through my life, I see something and think, oh, do you know what, that's a bit rubbish, that could be done better. And so I just go on and fix it then.
But isn't that kind of what the entrepreneurial spirit is all about? It's about making things better, isn't it? It's about seeing a problem and going, better way to do this, and going in and sorting it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. And I think it's a much bigger question than I can answer as to what makes an entrepreneur. But I don't think it's something you could say when you were 12, when I leave school, I want to be an entrepreneur, because I think it's probably something in your DNA that makes you that way, to be able to see a different way to do things. It's kind of, I suppose, thinking outside the box.
And I think what you said as well about you didn't come to it from a traditional background. Again, lots of people that I speak to, very few of them took a traditional route. I spoke to a little while ago when I was working on my next book. I spoke to an amazing lady from Australia who's got a huge business, and she went off and worked on like super yachts of the rich and famous for a while, and now she heads up an enormous company in Australia. And a lot of people do have these slightly squiggly ways of getting there, but every experience you have along the way kind of equips you better for the next step, doesn't it?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I don't even know if you know my background before business.
I know bits, but not everything. I've done some research, but I would love to hear it from you.
So basically, I joined the Royal Navy when I was 17. And so that was a slightly impulsive thing to do. I was halfway through my A levels, and it was really hard to join them as a woman. It was quite easy to join as a man, and that's a whole other podcast of the inequalities back in the 1980s. But it was really hard to get in, and I had a conditional place at Reading to go and read English, and all of a sudden I had the lure and the bright lights of adventure and travel and all the other things that came with joining the armed forces. And so when I was offered a place, I took it. So I literally left school in February with my A levels looming in the summer. Really nicely, the Navy organised for me to sit the exams. So I was doing my training in the Navy, and I popped off to an all boys college to actually sit my exams. Now, there's a bit of a backstory to that, because obviously I lost quite a lot of months, February to June. But my very best friend from when I was at nursery school was doing the same subjects, and she was super clever. She actually got an unconditional offer to Oxford. That's how bright she was. So and this is in the days before, scanning things and phones. And she wrote her notes out every night and posted them to me.
Oh, she's
So,
worth her weight in gold.
yeah, I mean, she's godmother to my children. We're still friends. But I think that in many ways, I probably, when I was writing my essays in my exams, I probably had much more of her opinions in it than I would have had I gone all the way through school to A levels. So I actually did better than a lot of my classmates who had been there for the whole. So it was kind of
Oh,
slightly
wow.
random, but it was nice that I at least got my A levels. But yes, so that was me. Comes joining the Navy at 17, and my deputy head teacher shook her head that this would be the biggest mistake of my life. And you know, bless her, she's not here now, but she wasn't right. And sometimes you have to do what you think is right. And I think that we're probably all a bit guilty of just following along with what's expected. And I think certainly a lot of people go to university now because it's just what everyone does after college. And sometimes I think it's okay to say that's not necessarily what I want to do. I'm going to go and do something different.
And nowadays as well, you can go down one path, like you were obviously in the Navy. You're not in the Navy now. You don't have to pick a path and that's your path for life. We have the ability, I think, again, if we go back in time, people picked that job, didn't they, when they were at school and they were that forever. They were that until they retired or died, sadly. Whereas now we don't have to do that. We can pick what we want to do now based on the information we have, and then we can evolve and change and adapt.
Yes, and absolutely skipping out the whole career bit. I'm doing a master's now at university,
In
so
what?
in digital marketing.
Oh, cool.
So this is me winging my way in without an undergraduate degree, getting onto a master's program. Clearly, I bring up the average age of the course somewhat, but it's amazing. And you know, if I had actually gone through the traditional university route, I wouldn't be doing this now. And oh, it's fantastic. Just you know, for me, it's helped me grow in a kind of business sense and taught me so much. But just hanging out with people that are in their 20s that are from all over the world. It's been like a privileged kind of snapshot into a world that's kind of not mine now because they're the youth of today and they're all pretty amazing to be honest.
But also when you were thinking about going to university, the things that are available now, the things that are available now when I was thinking of it, completely different.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to do English at Reading, and I think that the digital marketing that I've been doing has been amazing. Consumer analytics and insights and kind of the essentials of marketing, website user experience. And yeah, I mean that just didn't exist. I think that probably from my sixth form cohort, probably there was a maximum of maybe 8 different subjects that people took. So yeah, I think that it probably would have been more attractive now, and I think I would have been quite excited to go into this as a career, kind of in my 20s. But yeah, English, not sure where that would have actually led me. I had the kind of inkling that I'd like to be a journalist, and I don't know how that would have worked out. But no, it wasn't to be. But no, it's certainly exciting to be where I am now.
Absolutely. So from the Navy, the Royal Navy, how long were you there for before you moved on to your next piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, so I was in the Navy for 22 years. So a huge chunk of my kind of working life, if you like. And I was an air traffic controller, so it
Wow.
was busy, stressful, working as part of a high performance team. Every day was different. Really exciting. Fantastic job to do for so many years. And I, along the way, acquired a husband and 3 children. And I got to the end of the point where, like, I got a pension the day I walked out the door. And I could have stayed on longer. But for me, it was a balance. My husband was also serving at the time, and I didn't want to go off on a 7-month deployment and leave my children behind. And one of us needed to be like the sensible one that kind of was static. And so yeah, that was the decision was made for that to be me. So I left the Navy in 2008, but I had already started my first business then. So my first business was called Dotted Designs, and that was making cards, keepsake boxes, guest books, things like that. And so in the Navy, in my kind of environment in the control tower, I had a really captive audience. So I sold hundreds of cards. I would kind of get commissions from guys that weren't even putting down their cup of tea. They said, "Oh, can you do me a card for the wife? You know, her name's Jenny. You know, can
Oh,
you?"
wow.
And obviously they were getting huge brownie points for you know, commissioning such a really nice thing to be made. And actually, it was no effort on their part. So Dotted Designs, we got quite lucky really. I got a grant from Connecting Somerset, which was a Somerset Council initiative. And this is kind of back in the, back in the 2000s when councils were trying to get rural areas online, and they match funded my website. They gave me thousands of pounds. And that was
Amazing.
kind of back in the days when websites were much more complicated, and there was none of these kind of shortcut, you know, GoDaddy, none of the kind of things that were, that are available now. And so that's really where my kind of getting online comes from, and the realization that when I left the Navy, I'd lost my captive audience, and I had a website, but actually it's really hard to get people to a website. This is pre-Instagram. So I was on Facebook, I was on Twitter, but to be honest, I might as well have been waving my things out of my dining room window, because, if you've got an audience of 100, perhaps a couple people will see it. So the chances of actually making a sale is quite small. And that's kind of how I then landed on different forums and different spaces. And then I started selling on Etsy. Etsy, amazing. This is back in the early days when it was all handmade, less rubbish and Chinese imports and all the things that now are such a problem for people to kind of sift through and compete against. But back then it was really, really authentic and quite a special place to be. And what I realized was that there were lots of people like me who were all at home trying to make a business with quite a small social media following. So I had this kind of idea that maybe we could join forces. Maybe if we all joined together as a team, bearing in mind this was kind of where I'd come from, being a team, leading a team. And so I kind of corralled together a load of British creatives and started a team called British Crafters. So that was literally kind of the precursor to the British Crafters. And actually, we made the decision, which was really clever, and I'm not even sure it was my decision. I'm not sure I can claim it, but it was to set up public-facing social media pages to support the team. And that was when I realized that there was a vast quantity of sole traders and artists, creatives out there who just were struggling to connect. Lots of them were young mums with babies that had lots of people who'd had professional jobs and all of a sudden found themselves in quite a similar position to me. So so our Facebook page basically initially powered our own team. And then we decided that we would let people kind of join in, and we used to have a post that people could put a link to wherever they sold, their own websites, on the high street, wherever. And that if we liked it, we would share it. And it's quite an interesting algorithm, really. So for the team on British Crafters on Etsy, people had to have really good stuff, because the thing is, if you're trying to promote stuff with poor pictures, or if it's just not very well handmade, it's really difficult to sell it. And that was the same equation that we, the people that we allowed to be on our Facebook page, and it was all amazing stuff. And kind of because of that, our audience grew really quickly. We went from like 0 to 20,000 followers in a year. And it kind of got to the stage where if something was shared on there, it would sell. They may sell 20 bird bats, because of one share. And that's where the business kind of moved into a second phase, if you like, where the second Christmas, people started emailing me saying, I need to be on your page. I need to be on your Facebook page. Please let me on your Facebook page. I don't want to be in your Etsy group. I don't want to sell on Etsy, but I need to be on your page. And so then I monetized very slightly and it was £2 a day. I think it was like nothing.
Wow.
PayPal took a bit of that as well, and it was quite a lot of work. And after about 6 months, I changed the model, and people paid per month rather than per day, and that was easier. And huge success for the people that were taking part in it, and yeah, it was really exciting. But for me, the flaw was it didn't make any money.
It's a very manual process that as well, isn't it? You're having to do all the work. You're having to check everything takes your time.
Yeah, no, so it was, it really was, I don't know if you went to the SBS conference last year where Theo was talking about people being a busy fool. And I
Yes.
said, put your hand up if you're a busy fool. And about half of the room put their hand up. But I definitely at that point was a busy fool. I was working long hours. Bearing in mind, the idea of me being at home was to like be available for my kids, and so I kind of had a really busy, more than 40-hour job that actually didn't really pay me anything.
But that is not uncommon. It's not uncommon. You have your own business and your own thing to, particularly at the start. You say yes to everything because you're not quite sure where the next thing's coming from, where your next, in your case, the next person that wants to be on your website or your next paycheck. So you say yes, yes, yes. And then you realize you are running around and you could earn more money doing any job that was on minimum wage.
Yeah,
Loads of people do that.
yeah, no, absolutely. But the good part of being a busy fool for all those years, earning nothing, was that I made the most amazing connections.
Mm.
And that it built up a trust in me from people who literally knew that I wasn't in it for the money, for want of a better phrase, because there literally
Yeah.
wasn't any money. And yeah, so I think it's really important to kind of build up the trust, and also a level of intimacy. So, over the years, I knew people knew me. There's lots of creatives out there. I know what their children are called. I know where they like to go on their holidays. And all the while that this was going on, my social media accounts were growing and growing and growing. And I think that the fabulous thing with those accounts is that when I launched the British Craft House, they were my engine. So they had already been built. If I'd set up a business selling plumbing parts, obviously my audience wouldn't have matched, but it was the same people. My newsletter subscribers are the same people. So although it did feel at the time like I was a busy fool, I definitely wasn't all about a profit and loss sheet. It built up a lot of kind of trust, and people kind of know who I was. So in 2011, I won SBS from Theo for Dotty Designs, and obviously that's pretty amazing. Then I won it again in 2018 for British Crafters, because although I carried on going along to conferences, somewhere along the way I kind of slightly parked Dotty Designs, and British Crafters was what I was doing. It took so long to win it the second time though. It was mind blowing, just week after week after week. In the end, I scheduled it for a year. I
But I think that's the way to do it if you want it enough. I know when I won, I think I won a couple of years ago now because we're about to go to my second conference and I've been, every time I've been invited. But I had to go and I didn't get it, and I had to go and I didn't get it, and felt quite despondent. And I thought, no, I really want it, so I had to, because the competition is fierce now. And
Yeah,
if you,
so there's about 30 British Craft House sellers that have won it, because
amazing.
they're threatening to have my face on t-shirts. I hope they don't.
Oh, that would be incredible.
Um,
I'd love that.
But so I try and get them to enter, and you can see sometimes when people say, "Oh, I've entered 3 times. I haven't won. I'm never going to win it." No. You've got to enter like 300 times,
Yeah.
and if it takes 300, you've just got to keep trying. And in the end, I did schedule. I won both times on Twitter. I did schedule my tweets and just changed it, tweaked it, changed the photos. And then when I won, I had to go onto my scheduler and like delete all
Stop,
of.
stop, stop.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, it's a really good thing to belong to. But the kind of bit where I decided that I had to do something different was my daughter was going to secondary school. So to be honest, I'd kind of slightly taken the mickey out for staying at home. They really didn't need me to be there anymore. And the plan was always really that I would go and get a job either as a civilian air traffic controller or work in operations or manage an airfield or do something like that. So so I'm kind of early 2019 and I'm at a bit of a crossroads, you know, do I try and pursue this? Do I try and make it something different? Or do I just go and get a job, which was the easiest option? And there came up an airfield manager's job, kind of commutable from where I am. So beginning of 2019, I applied for the job. So kind of exactly at that time, there was a really lovely lady called Mel from the Little Paper Flower Shop, and she was using the British Crafters promotion services. I was promoting her Valentine's products. And she had like the best month she'd ever had in her life. I think her sales were up 3,500%. It was just
Crikey.
off the scale. She had to get people like to help, you know, to fulfill what she was doing. And that really did make me kind of think, you know, how much money has she made? How much money has Etsy made in commission? And she was on, I think, my lowest package at £12 a month. So,
Wow.
so I'd given her access to my audience. I'd sprinkled my social media magic on her products, and the result was everybody else earned loads of money. And I thought, no, this is definitely something definitely has to change here. And it was kind of at the same time Etsy was going through a lot of problems. Well, they were kind of making them themselves, where they were insisting people had free postage to be in their advertising. And for me personally, as a seller, most of my sales went to America, so I couldn't have free postage.
No.
Books cost nearly £15 to post. So there was lots of kind of dissent and people that weren't really very happy with Etsy. There were also at the same time platforms springing up, kind of opportunist platforms that could see people were unhappy with Etsy and were providing an alternative, which from the outside looked okay, but actually it was just a framework, a shell of a website. It didn't have any of the tools that people needed built into it. They didn't have social media following. And, you know, it basically didn't kind of have anything that people were liking. And some of the people in my Etsy team tried these places, and most of them just stayed for a month and left. And so I had kind of had the seed planted, you know, as to maybe it could be done better, going back to me being a fixer. You know, I think that, you know, that there were lots of things that were good. I was selling at that time in about 10 places. Lots of them are kind of gone now. And even the ones that left, some of them had good points that other people didn't have, but nobody was bringing together all of the good points. So I had this kind of idea that maybe I could just bring together everything that was good from where I had sold and somehow combine it with the community that I created on British Crafters. And so, but also have it as high quality. So not like the other sites that you can knit a pair of socks, take a photo on your phone and upload it. You know, that it's more not curated as such, but more curated in that everybody that was on there was kind of on the same level with knowing what they were doing.
Yeah.
And then really that took me to SBS 2019 when you went, did you say your first one was last year?
Yep, yep, you were there before me. Well, you were
Yes.
there, you've been there the whole time, but you were there before me.
2019, Sir Tom Hunter was the speaker. I don't know if you know his kind of backstory. He started off selling trainers out the back of a van. He would buy them in one place, sell them on as a profit to somewhere else. And he kind of he was the person that made wearing trainers with jeans cool. You know, before him, really, it was just sportswear. And he sold his business to, I think, JJB Sport for about 23 billion or something crazy. Anyway, he was Theo's fireside guest. Absolutely amazing speaker. And I had this like epiphany And in fact, in the conference, I've got the soundbite of what he said, and it's going to be played when I'm doing my talk, because it was just like he was talking to me. It could have been like nobody in the room. It was like he was saying to me, "You've got the idea, you've done your homework, you know you've got an audience, you're prepared to put in as much hard work as it's going to take. You've got to do it, because if you don't do it, you don't try it, what then?
Mm.
It'll always be that thing that you thought was a good idea. And what if someone else does it? What if someone else kind of and so and I actually made a graphic out of what he said at the time in the room. It was just so powerful. And it got to the end of his talk, and obviously everyone went off to get their certificates and stuff. And there was a guy sat next to me, David Hitchcock, who runs a business called Photo Finish Jewelry. Lovely bloke. I said to him, "Do you think I could build a platform like Etsy, but with the quality that we have on British Crafted and the community feel?" He said, "Well, if anyone can, you can." He said, "Sign me up. I'll be your first signer." And I thought, okay, maybe this is something, that I can do. And so on the train on the way back, I was kind of just basically doing all of my homework, my competitor analysis, what was my USP, what did I bring to the party that nobody else did? Could I do this? Was it feasible? How much was it going to cost? All of those sorts of things. And I got home and kind of, just had dinner, didn't think anything more of it. Then at the same time, I was training for the London Marathon.
Oh,
And
wow.
the following day, I was doing my longest run, which was 18 miles. So it was right towards the end of the training. So I don't run with headphones, and I'm quite slow. So it's like half a day that I was out there running around in circles, and it kept coming back to me. And by about probably mile 5, I was writing my business plan. I
Wow.
kind of was going through it. Would it work? How would this work? What would this do? And then I was thinking, that's ridiculous. I just need to go and get a proper job with like decent money, so we can go on holiday and we can have guaranteed money, and and then mile 14, it's back again. And I got home and said to my husband, and he said, how was it? How was it? And I'm like, yeah, it was fine. It was fine. I've got this brilliant business thing I've got to tell you about. And he's like, oh, okay, sit down. And he's saying, right, okay, it all sounds really good and really possible. Please don't do anything now. Please just sleep on it and see what you think in the morning. And so I did. I got up in the morning and I thought, no, this definitely could be something. So I was busy doing my research into loans, because I didn't have any money saved behind to make something of this size. And I got the post came and I got the job at the airport. So
Oh, wow.
this is like proper crossroads. And I opened the envelope, bearing in mind this was the first job I had applied for and interviewed for,
Oh my gosh.
in 30 something years. And so when I opened it and found I got a job, my heart sank.
Now that's interesting, isn't it?
And that was when I realized that I had to do this. This was a really good job that I could have had until I retired. It wasn't far away. I could cycle there. The logistics were good. It was really good money. And I love aviation and I love the whole buzz of airfields, but not that time. This was not the time to be doing that.
Isn't
And
that funny about it's like the whole I know gut feeling is something that the more I used to think it was completely woo-woo. However, the more I have, the older I've got, the more I've had that little voice going, "Don't do that." And I've done it anyway and it's gone wrong. You kind of get this body feeling, don't you?
yeah, I mean, I, when I opened it and it said I had the job and it had all the forms to fill in for HR and all that kind of stuff, and I thought, no, I just don't want this. And so I found my loan, which was what I wanted, was a Virgin Entrepreneur loan, and I applied for it and got accepted. And
Wow.
so and their kind of demographic mainly that Virgin startups support are tech businesses, men in their 30s, And so I was completely left field. And I got the loan approved, and they have like local agents that help people out with all of their plans. And the lady had been working on for years, and she said that I got the money the quickest she'd ever seen. And that was just because I'm quite a committer. So once I decided that I wanted this, I had to go for it. And in my head, I wanted a launch to catch Christmas traffic. So
Wow, that's a short time, isn't it?
yeah,
Between
yeah, no, it was pretty exciting. And then I had to find somebody to build the website, and and literally it was like a business baby. So it launched on the 1st of November. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. I knew that I was doing the right thing when I put out a feeler amongst my kind of newsletter subscribers looking for testers for the site, and I had about 400 people say that they would like to be testers. So
wow.
and I only needed like 50. So I knew at that point that people were hungry to be part of this.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we launched on the 1st of November. I mean, there were lots of speed wobbles along the way, as you can imagine, but yeah, pretty exciting that from sitting in that room to launching. It was all in the same calendar year.
And did it feel strange, or how did you work through going from basically a free, very, very low cost service to one that did have the objective of actually being a business as well? Because you've built that loyalty in your community, and then you're not moving the goalposts either. Actually, far from it. You're making it better for everybody because a business needs to be sustainable. How did you kind of put that across, or how did you feel about it when you introduced that concept?
So I think it's quite difficult, and I think a lot of people just want everything free. I still get emails now saying, can I just come and try your website like for a couple of months and not pay you anything, and not pay commission, just come and like see if it works. No.
Mm.
Yeah, it's quite difficult. And actually, again, kind of going back to Theo and all of the things that he preaches, I did my homework, and I kind of almost didn't look at the competition. I did look at the competition and what they were charging, but I knew that what I was going to be providing was completely different. And so, there are platforms in the UK that you can pay £6 a month. My lowest subscription is 120 a year. That's the most cost effective. But what you get for that is off the scale compared to what you get everywhere else. So all of the commission that I take goes back on advertising. I've spent the best part of £50,000 now on advertising on
Wow.
Google, Facebook, Pinterest, any way you can advertise, we're there advertising. Because I think that the reason that Etsy still has the monopoly is that because none of the UK sites have invested in advertising. And so even after all this time, and some of the UK sites have been around as long as Etsy, but people have never heard of them. And that's because they don't promote their site and promote their people. So so every single item on the website is included in our paid ads. To amazing effect. In fact, we've just been picked up as a business to be profiled on Meta's success stories.
Wow,
Our
that's a win.
Yeah, so our ads are and part of the reason the ads are so good and work so well is because all the images are good.
Mm.
And so I hold fast to the application process, because what that means is that everyone that joins has good photographs, because actually you only need to have a carousel of 6 items with one awful photo, and people will hide your ads forever. I think on social media people are quite brutal. But we have an amazing Facebook kind of an Instagram ads. Google Shopping works really well, but all of our money goes into that. And Etsy advertise, but the sellers pay for the advertising. The other sites don't advertise. Not on the high street advertisers, but again they charge 30% commission. So we were kind of coming in at a different angle. And I have a higher package where people get kind of press coverage, and we had 200 articles and products in press last year. And
Wow.
again, that's, we're I subscribe to kind of a press portal, but we often get picked up because the journalists know that A, the photos are going to be good, B, the stuff's made in Britain,
Mm.
and see if they ask any questions, and I'll go back and kind of answer them straight away. And we've had people in the Telegraph, we had 4 pages in Hampshire Live,
Wow.
Metro, and so we get a lot of coverage, but that's because everything on the website is kind of high quality, and that kind of works in a different way for customers, because customers coming onto the site know that everything is genuinely handmade and high quality and with good customer service. We have a much higher repeat customer rate than normal, because people know they can trust the website, and going all the way back to kind of trust being kind of all the way through, they're coming, they can trust. But also, again, what the other websites don't have, we have a hub on Facebook, where people, I have a post every day, saying, hey, it's Wednesday, I'm doing this today, what are you doing? In fact, I said I was doing this podcast today. What are you doing today? And on that, people make kind of really nice human connections as well.
Mm.
I know that somebody's mum's in hospital, I know that somebody else is having problems with some parcels that have gone missing, and so people can connect on a really personal level, which brings together all of the kind of things that I set out to do right in the beginning, when I was at home on my own trying to flog stuff, and had no kind of no backup. And so we meet as well. So so in Hampshire, we meet up with sellers and go to the pub or go for coffee and cake. And other regions do the same. There's like a little Cornwall enclave where they've all been out for afternoon tea. And I think the people up in Edinburgh go to a bar. So, so
Love
there's
it.
really nice kind of where people have made really proper friendships. And I think that, for £120 a year, that's that
Bargain.
that's not bad. So yes, on the face of it, maybe you can list somewhere else for cheaper, but you don't get any of the stuff, and you don't get any of the kind of, the kind of magic that comes with what has kind of managed to manifest itself as the brand, which is pretty exciting. And I in COVID, I did a Secret Santa in the summer, because like when everyone couldn't go on holiday and weren't
Mm.
and I said, I'm going to do like a Secret Santa, and if only like half a dozen people sign up, it doesn't matter. Over 200 people signed up.
Oh God.
So, and it was, everything had to be small, so you could post it on your daily walk. I mean, it's hard to think back to that time
Oh
now.
gosh,
But
yeah.
yes, 200 little parcels landing on mats, making people happy. And I think things like that make us a little bit special, really.
Also, I mean, I know you said you can pay different people different amounts of money, and you said your top tier package, you also get the kind of PR support as well. I don't know how much that is. However, I do know if someone had hired a PR agent who had hired somebody to do their ads for them, that is a significant investment. And you
Yeah,
also get the benefit of being, when you're part of a community, if one person on the British Craft House gets that exposure and drives that traffic to the website, that person is likely to discover new things as well. So
yeah.
it really is the power of it is the community, and the community fuels the whole thing. So it's not just they're paying for a listing, they're paying for so much more than that.
Yes, no, absolutely. And I've got some kind of graphics for when they join, and it now says, I'm a proud seller, I'm proud to be selling on the British Craft House. And I guess that's the kind of thing that I want. The flip side of that, and the slightly awful part, is when I don't accept people. And that goes against everything I stand for being inclusive and community. But sometimes, so we have our kind of slightly offbeat ruling for jewelry, that jewelry has to have the focal element handmade by the designer, by the maker. So
Right.
you
Yeah.
can't go to Hobbycraft and buy a let's make a bracelet kind of thing and make it with your hands and then sell it. And the reason I did that is that all the other marketplaces are just flooded with jewelry, and I wanted it to be more kind of silversmithing, proper traditional jewelry techniques rather than people having a go at making jewelry. And
Yeah.
and I have people apply who've had they've got 20,000 sales on Etsy and they're doing really well and they've got a fantastic business, but they're not quite a fit for the British Craft House. And I do all of I vet all of the applications, and I do offer if people have got say they've got a really good product, but their photographs aren't good, I'll offer to help them if they want with feedback and send them links to different apps and YouTube tutorials. And there's so much out there that can help you. But if your photos aren't quite what would fit with everything else, then that person's not coming on. And yeah, so there are people that get quite upset and offended, and that's really awkward because that's kind of not my thing. I want to welcome everybody in, but the reason that we have the filter, and sometimes I have a really awkward situation where I have it in my T's and C's that people's photographs in their shop must match the quality of the photo they applied with, because sometimes people will apply with one wonderful photo and then all of a sudden they copy their Etsy shop into their shop, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, you can't list that, you can't have that. And so again, it's that's kind of the worst part, I suppose, of being, in an ideal world, I'd like to have somebody have that as their job, somebody that I pay to have that as part of their job, because that is the hardest conversations. But
But if
I
you
think that it's important, the reason that people want to sell with us and want to shop with us is because everything is high quality, and so I'm absolutely, not still about making, my profit and loss sheet is still not brilliant. I believe that in the future, that things will be good. But if I had all been about P&L sheets, I could probably have 10,000 sellers now. I've turned away so many people. And also, people that apply selling Disney things and things that are just illegal and completely
yeah,
right, because the other sites don't
don't
bother.
care.
They're happy to
No.
pay money and for them to break the law. But no, it's quite a tight rein that I hold on it, really, but it works.
But also it has to be, we said about the power of the community as a community, but that means that every element of it has got to be aligned and pulling in the same direction. Otherwise, those sort of weaker parts bring the whole thing down. Then you lose that credibility and you lose the loyalty and the trust and everything you've built up with the sellers and the buyers as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, it can be difficult sometimes, but no, I kind of hold fast to my ideals and the USP, if you like, that provided a space for us to occupy. And so last year we turned over £1 million in sales. So that's not my money, sadly, but the sellers taking £1 million. And so the proof is in the sales, really, and that's us really interrupting a market that was already established and taking a big chunk from other people. And as far as I'm concerned, we can only grow. We will only get bigger. We will only take more of a market share as we continue to grow. Yeah, no, it's a pretty exciting place to be, really.
Yeah, definitely. Along your journey, have there been any real kind of lows, any sort of moments where you've thought, oh God, this is really hard. Why am I doing this?
Yeah, I mean, totally. Even with the British Craft House, the company that I went with to build the website initially, they were a local company, husband and wife, lovely, lovely people. The kind of style and ethos of the website is still what we have today. But during COVID, they gave me 4 weeks' notice to find someone else to post and design and do everything. It was
Oh,
worse than that because they hadn't actually finished everything. We didn't have there were still some problems with our shipping section. Um,
oh,
with a multi-vendor website, there's so many bits to kind of get right. And what I didn't realize is that they outsourced a lot of stuff to India. And so yeah, it was all a bit of a nightmare.
Right. I was going to say it was a very short time that you got it up and running anyway, but let alone with that problem.
Yeah, so well, actually, we did launch in the middle of October, and we had so much website traffic, it just took the website out. So the 1st of November is a little bit of a kind of creative date. That was the date that we gingerly kind of launched it again, with less fanfares and trumpets. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the when we launched in the middle of October, a lot of the problem was people applying to sell, so they were uploading photos, and yeah, and it went mad. And I had no idea how popular it was going to be. And so we so I had 4 weeks then to find someone else to basically host what wasn't a brilliant kind of thing. And I get it, I hold no kind of ill will against these people. It was the middle of COVID, they had small children, nobody knew what was going on really. And I think that they knew that I had grown already bigger than what they could cope with. And so I think they were probably future proofing their sanity to get rid of me. But it was quite stressful. And I was really lucky. And in fact, kind of SBS punctuates throughout my kind of journey that Chris Rue from Dorset Tech came in and saved me like a literal superhero, sorted everything out, and yeah, got us up and running and sorted out all the bits that weren't good. Yeah, and so that was kind of a quite a low. And then the website, as it was, we kind of outgrew that. So last year I've relaunched, so we're on the second version of the website now. And then that was built by Dorset Tech, using like different methods. And so from the outside it looks quite similar, but behind the scenes, it's kind of coded properly, everything is where it should be. And yeah, we've got an app that's launching later this year. So yeah, so that's all it's all pretty positive and exciting. But yeah, I mean, I think that the low of COVID,
Yeah.
I think there was a thing where we went into COVID, were the post offices going to shut? There was a thing on the news, I think, right at the beginning, is all post going to stop? And I think in some countries, in South Africa for a while, post did stop because they weren't sure whether COVID was being, kind of transmitted through post and letters. So, I mean, to be honest, we would have been stuffed, if they had stopped delivering mail. But as it was, we did pretty well out of COVID because nobody could go to the shops and everyone felt a bit mortal. So they were sending each other gifts and tokens. And a lot of our quite big artists started making little things. And, we did a whole in our networking hub, how can you diversify? How can you make something that's maybe not COVID friendly? How can you do something different with your skills that means your stuff is going to be viable now on for however long, the craziness lasted? And there's one lady, Bev from Bev Art Designs, and she's an SBS winner as well, actually. She's like does beautiful big oil paintings, fantastic artist. And she now also makes jewelry with her kind of offcuts of her paint. And her husband made like little wooden kind of hearts and things that she does them. So yeah, so lots of the sellers pivoted, to good effect. But I think definitely, that was if the post offices had closed, we probably would have gone under.
Yeah, no, completely. And obviously, we've talked about SBS a fair amount. I know when this comes out, this podcast comes out, you'll have just done the most amazing talk at SBS. So we can look ahead to the future of how amazing that's going to be. But you're speaking on the big stage so this is SBS is Small Business Sunday, which is run by Theo Paphitis. It's awesome. I am one of the SBS, obviously Susan is, and there's a huge group of, I want to say 3,500, but now I'm doubting myself. It's a good old group, but he runs this competition every Sunday, gets announced on Monday, and it's on Instagram and Twitter now. So if you're a small business, go and check that out. And Susan is speaking at the conference. How does that, I mean, you do a lot of public speaking and things like that, don't you, anyway?
No,
You
no,
don't?
not at all. No, I've never done anything like that
Well,
ever.
this is a baptism of fire. I've been reading about you in lots of different places, and I've gone, "Oh, I've put 2 and 2 together and come up with 20." Right, so this is a lot.
Yeah, it's massive. So when I was approached initially, it was to do a breakout room.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, that's fine because you know your audience because people have to book into breakout rooms. It's kind of hidden away upstairs, 30 people or so. I thought that'd be fine. And obviously I was a naval officer, so I'm used to standing up and briefing people. I've kind of, I've kind of been firemen and air crew and that kind of,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but no, never in a million years have I stood on any kind of stage like that. But when I was asked if I would do it, it's just the best opportunity, isn't it?
Yes.
And so, like lots of things that I've kind of done in my life, I kind of say yes and then work out how. So a similar thing with that was I got a phone call in 2022 from a lovely lady at Downing Street saying, would I like to do the Downing Street Christmas Festival that year? And
Yes.
it was 2 weeks' notice. And obviously, I don't have any products, I don't have any stands, I don't have any infrastructure, I don't have anything. And so I managed to make it all happen, and it was fantastic. So I thought I've just got to do this. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it goes.
It's gonna be
I love
amazing.
that everyone's got complete blind faith in what I'm going to do. And
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, it's massive. I've never even stood on a stage and spoken to 50 people.
It's gonna be amazing, and the event last year, so the ICC again, and the venue is just beautiful, and I think the really nice thing about the event is that everybody in that audience is on your side. Everybody in that audience wants to hear all about you, they're excited, there's just the most amazing buzzy atmosphere, isn't there? You're kind of amongst friends you don't know yet.
Yeah,
You're gonna
no,
be
I think
amazing.
so. Every time Theo puts on his socials a picture of him last year, he's kind of stood with the people all out in front of him. My heart skips a beat. Yeah, so I think that I just obviously I'm still writing my script. I need to make sure that I'm comfortable with what I'm saying. But one of my children said something which I thought was kind of, they said you're talking about you. You're not talking about French political history, 1647. They said you can't really get lost. The worst thing will be you skip a bit, you don't quite get a message across, but it's just you and how you've got from where you were to where you are. And actually, it was the same person when I was doing the London Marathon who said, what's the worst that can happen? If you have to walk, no one's going to shoot you.
100% though, but that is the attitude to
Yeah,
have.
it's very true. And so I think I just have to embrace it. I get to go and practice it in the morning, really early in the morning. So I'm hoping that I can kind of get my grounding on the stage, and yeah, and hopefully it'll all be fine. But yeah, there's no way I could say no. And again, a bit like launching a website, if I had said no, I wouldn't be here, and I would pinch myself if I hadn't taken up the opportunity. So no, it's kind of exciting and terrifying in equal measures at the moment.
It's gonna be amazing. Are there any tips you could give to anybody who might be listening to this, who might be on the cusp of an idea? They might have an idea, they might not have the confidence to go for it. Maybe they have had a job offer come through the post, which makes sense on paper, but they're not feeling it. What advice would you give people who are in that kind of, they want to do something, but they just don't know how?
Well, I think a little bit the same as what you were saying before, Rio. I think that as I've got older, following your gut really does guide you in the right direction. And I think you have to be practical. If I had been paying the mortgage, I probably would have had to take the job at the airfield. But I wasn't, so I was lucky that I could go in the other direction. So I think it's really just, properly doing your homework. If you've got an idea, you need to make sure that you're as confident as you can be that it's going to be a success. If you're looking at setting up kind of a business online, really again doing your homework. Is the domain name available? Can you have all the social media to match the domain name? Because so many times people, kind of launch a ta-da, this is my new business, but actually, there's a limited company that's got that business name, and then they're kind of like fighting against that for years. So I think it's kind of trying to make sure that your idea is good, and and speak to your friends and family about it, because if you launch your idea, they'll be bored to tears with you talking about it. So get in early, give them your kind of idea, get their thoughts and feedback. But in many ways, it's a bit like when you tell somebody you want to do something and they say they don't think it's a good idea, and it makes you realize more that it is a good idea. you
Mm.
know my mother-in-law still asks when I'm going to go and get a proper job, when I'm going to go back to work. And families are are the most supportive and least supportive in equal measure sometimes, because they, I think especially if you have got a degree in something, that there's always the kind of confusion as to why you're maybe now doing watercolors when you've got a degree in history, or
Yeah.
whatever it should be. But I think following your gut is my kind of thing, but backing it up with making sure you've done all the right research and the right homework, and then finding a support network. And I think that's the one thing since when I left the Navy, that I can't find the right support network. Okay, I'll make a support network. And I think that really helps, just having somebody on the end of the phone, or even being able to post something and get other people's ideas, I think is really powerful.
I think support is one of these things that we kind of don't realize how important it is. I was speaking to someone a little while ago about how their family didn't kind of get their journey. But the thing is, if they've got that different worldview, if they've got that different viewpoint, if for them being in a 9 to 5 is everything, then they're not necessarily going to get your point of view anyway. But then they're not your target audience either. It's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And I think only you can know what's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that you would like to add or share with us today before I ask you all the places where you can find out all about you and the British Craft House online?
No, I don't think so. But I just think that if there's one thing that kind of people take away, it's that sometimes you've just got to say yes, and then work out how.
Too right.
Because I think as humans, it's so easy to say, "Oh no, that's not for me," or "No, I don't want to go to that conference," or "I don't want to do anything." Even people not coming to the SBS conference because it's out of their comfort zone. And actually, once you've been to one, you'll never miss one.
Oh, it was not at all what I expected last year. It was about 100 times better because I thought it would be quite formal, quite straight-laced. And, like, don't get me wrong, the talks are amazing and you sit down and there's silence and you listen, but it's like nothing I've ever been to before.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I have got some sellers that have won that have never been to collect their certificate, because the whole idea of going is so overwhelming. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think sometimes you've just got to, even if you say, right, I'm gonna go to the conference, I'm just gonna go in for 5 minutes and see what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, it's kind of the fear of the unknown, and it's difficult, but you have to kind of meet that
Good.
fear, and go for it, really.
And getting to meet Theo is fab. I gave him my book and bless him, he wrote a thank you letter. I'm sure he does for everybody. But I had a thank you letter from him for my book and it was so nice and it was just lovely. I think he's a star anyway, but he was absolutely delightful. And
I think he says fantastic, and I'm not even really sure when I caught his eye, if you like, because you see, I got invited to Coutts Bank as part of his round table last year,
I
and
applied for that. I didn't get that.
he remembers me picking me as Dotty Designs, and that was in the day when you entered and won on a Sunday.
Wow.
And he remembered picking me. But I think it was in 2018, he got everybody who had been there the year before, or everyone who had been to more than one conference, to stand up. And then he got people progressively to sit down. And then in the end, there were about probably 10 of us that had been to all the conferences. Then he went
Wow.
around the room asking people what their business was. I was at the back, he didn't see me. And like he
Oh,
went to go on to his next thing. And from the back, from somewhere deep inside me, I shouted and said, Theo, you've forgotten me.
oh, good on you.
No, I was completely, I don't know, possessed. I don't know
Did you
what
look behind you at that point to see who had said it?
I don't know what came over me. And then I got to tell him all about my kind of business. But of course, everyone in the room then knew who I was.
It's a brilliant, it's a masterstroke of
A
PR.
little bit crazy, but I thought I can't just sit down because that would be like really embarrassing as well. Because I've been stood up for like 5 minutes. But yeah, so I don't know. And again, it's just it, and I think that the power of community that kind of gives you that impetus to put your head above the parapet and kind of wave. But yeah, no, mental. I still can't really believe that I did that. I wish someone had it on camera or had it on
Oh,
video because it was a bit crazy.
well, if they do that again, I will be waiting for this to happen. Okay, I will get my phone out. I will film you, and when you scream, I will be there.
Oh, brilliant. No, it's all good stuff, isn't it? No, I love the community. I love creative small businesses. You can't beat it, can you?
No, it's awesome. So tell us all the places where we can find you and your fabulous people online.
Well, I am everywhere as British Craft House, apart from Twitter, where I'm British Craft Thing, because it was too long, British Craft House, and it was too difficult to change it. So yeah, I'm basically everywhere. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me with just my name on LinkedIn. Yeah, anywhere there is to be hanging out, I've got a presence there. And it's kind of something I work on actually. And I think it's really important to be present in all of these places, whether you kind of like them or not.
Couldn't agree more. I spend a lot of my time saying to people, you don't have to like social media, but it's very, very good for your business. So like it for that, nothing else. You don't have to. I agree with you. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Susan. It's been brilliant. I can't wait to hear you speak at SBS. I know when this comes out, you will have spoken, so it'll be amazing. But genuinely, I cannot wait. It's going to be a brilliant day.
Oh, thank you, Ria. That's really kind. And thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.